Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. You know who it is. It's your boy Jay Hennahan, and I'm back with another episode of How to Kill a Sacred Cow. Tonight on the podcast, I have a super crazy, hella special treat. Well, I interviewed Tommy Chong. Yes, that Chong. Tommy Up and Smoke Chong. This dude is in his 80s, and he's still fucking making it happen, man. He's still working, touring, doing shows. He's still it's the craziest thing, man. And he's still funny as ever. It was such a treat to speak to him. He is just as awesome as you can imagine, and even a little nicer than I expected, if that makes any sense. I'm not even going to do a big, fancy introduction because it is unnecessary. Everybody already knows who the fuck Tommy Chong is. So I'm just going to go right to the pitch. If anybody would like to help out the podcast, please go to howtokillasacredcow.com and go down here to this cool set of buttons. If you're ever looking for any of my links, they're all down there. But if you want to help out the show, you can click here onto Amazon, the Amazon button, and as long as you go through that portal, will get a commission off of anything you purchase in there. This little B right here is the Bitcoin. You can donate cryptocurrency through Coinbase if you have a Coinbase wallet. And right here is the PayPal button. If you go through there, it helps me directly. Of course, you can always find me on Rockfin. I'm there on YouTube. This episode is definitely going to be up on YouTube. But people, I'm not going to be on YouTube forever. That's just the nature of the beast. So go to Rockfin. Subscribe to my Rockfin page. Sign up and subscribe to Rockfin. There's a million amazing content creators on there. Not a million. A million is a little much, but it's a lot. And if anybody wants to help out the show further, you can go here to the library section. Here is the guest books. If you go to any one of these right here, any one of these pictures, you can buy their book, or if you just click their name, it takes you to their full profile on Amazon. Suggested reading. I am constantly updating this. Same thing goes here as on the other page. You go into any one of these books. A book that I'm going to recommend is a book that I'm reading right now. It is Isaac Asimov's favorite book. It is his favorite book that he wrote is The Gods Themselves. Super interesting. Blood Out. And of course, I have a store all the way up here. And you can buy one of these t-shirts or a mug. Fucking cool, isn't it? Now, without any further ado, Tommy Chong. So Tommy fucking Chong, man, you have no idea how excited I was to actually be able to get you on the show, man. How's everything going today?
Well, it's actually Tommy, not fucking Chong. No. I've reached that age and where the used car part that got recalled.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of time on my hands to learn how to act when you're old, because there's an art to acting your age,
Mm-hmm.
and that means something. That acting your age does mean something. You have to grow up. Finally, it took me till I was 80, but 83 actually. I'll be 84 this birthday. But I finally grown up. I'm an adult now, I feel.
Yeah, someone had asked me not too long ago, what age did you actually begin to feel like an adult? And I had to stop and think about it, and I wasn't even sure that it actually had happened yet.
That you actually are an adult, you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I act like an adult. I pay all my bills. I take care of my family, but it still doesn't feel real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have a sort of a guilty feeling? I carry a lot of guilt, and it comes from my childhood when my mother would say, "Have you done your homework?" And I haven't even started. And yeah. And then I never did it. But I felt guilty about it. And so now I've got that guilt. I'll be doing something, and all of a sudden I'll just feel like I shouldn't be doing it anymore. Like Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a guilt that I got when I was at that school age.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten over it.
So I was reading up in your biography, and I had heard from previous interviews that you were in a band when you were a younger man, and I didn't actually know that it was as successful as it was. And I mean, I'm a fellow musician too, and I certainly aspired to become a musician, but kind of fell this way. When you get on this side of your 30s.
Yeah.
And so what was that like, man, touring? And I read in an interview also that you guys played with the Jackson 5. How did all that shake out?
Jimi Hendrix.
You played with Hendrix too?
Hendrix sat in with our band one time.
Oh my God.
And he walked, we were playing in England. We had a little gig. We're backing up Barry Gordy's girlfriend, Chris Clark. And we were a band, Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, but we had this gig of backing Chris. It was kind of like Barry's kind of thank you for being the hip people, and it was a gift. And he brought us over, and so we're playing in this little club, and there was nobody in the club. It was like a last minute thing, and then all of a sudden the door opened, and Jimi Hendrix walked in, and there was about 200 people behind him. And he walked up to the stage. He goes, "Hey, Tom," by name. He says, "Mind if I sit in?" And right away, I took off my guitar, and he goes, "No, I'll play bass." So the poor bass player had to give up his bass, and Hendrix played bass. I played guitar. Eddie Patterson played the lead guitar, and and Doris Maxwell, the drummer, played drums, and we jammed. They had to pull the plug on us because we would not stop playing. It was so much fun, and then after, we kind of, I kind of wanted to hang with Jimmy, but then not really, but anyway, we got, Bobby was all over Jimmy, and he says, "Come on, let's go up to our place, and we'll have a little party." And we went up to our hotel room, and Hendrix went in the bathroom, and he never came out. he just stayed the entire time in the bathroom. And all of us were sitting out there going, "Man, we played with Hendrix, man. He's in the toilet right now." Yeah. Wow, that's cool. We played with Hendrix. It was pretty funny.
And he just stayed there all night, or did he jump out the window or something?
No, he was shooting up. He's a heroin addict. So
I didn't want to infer. So yeah.
And then after, he kind of left on the QT, or they let him out. I really don't remember how he left. Tell you the truth, I think I left. Maybe when I think about it, I'll have to ask, because it was. And then the next day, we're riding to the airport. We're in the limo that the Beatles used all the time. So it was a historical Beatle limo. And we're sitting around, on our way to the airport. And it was kind of those seats where you could face each other, the old-fashioned limo. And everybody was talking about, "Man, that's fucking Jimi Hendrix. We played with Jimi Hendrix." And out of the blue, I said, "I'm going to be bigger than Hendrix." And everybody stopped and looked at me and said, and I think it was Doris or someone said, "On guitar?" Because my guitar playing was noticeably, I played like a songwriter. I'm a good backup guitar player, and I can keep the beat. I can rock the room with the beat. Not that great on solos, because I never had a chance to play solos. I was always backing up someone else playing a solo, and so I was never that. In fact, when I record my own song, I wasn't on guitar. We had studio musicians, and everybody else in the band played on the record except me, because I was the weakest musician. And the composer of the song, the guy that put it to music, because it was a poem. It was Does Your Mama Know About Me, a poem. And then he saw my book of poetry, and he saw that one, and he said, do you mind if I make this into a song? And of course I said, no, no problem. And he said, and then he wrote the bridge to the song, and then I had a real song. Not only the song, it was a hit. It was, it got up pretty high on the Billboard, on the R&B Billboard chart, national. And a lot of people covered the song, Diana Ross and the Harlettes and Bette Midler and not Randy, Jermaine Jackson. Yeah, they loved the song because it was the first interracial look done to music. And it changed Motown, because as soon as Motown heard that song, the writers went poof. And then, all the songs about, Papa was a Rolling Stone and Diana Ross's songs, all those self real things, got away from that dance like a monkey or do the horse or, got away from those kind of things. Yeah. And into something that really meant something. So I never called myself a guitar player. In fact, I never used my own guitar until, I would go on gigs and I would play the guy's guitar. I was always standard. It was way before electric. And so, my guitar was just a cheap Sears guitar and really wasn't fit for stage. Although I played a couple of gigs with it, but it was like a 3/4 size guitar. I got it here, but I had to it fell apart, because it was so old. But so I never really considered myself a guitar player ever. But I knew how to play guitar. And that's the way I really considered my life. I never really considered myself a movie director, but I've directed, 5 movies. I never considered myself an actor, yet I've acted in them. And I never considered myself a comedian, although I got to admit, I do call myself a comedian. I do call myself a comic, because I went through the gauntlet of becoming a comedian, but I never did do that with the guitar. And I play well enough for me. You know what I'm saying?
I actually know exactly what you're saying. I always wanted to be a guitarist in a band. Mm-hmm. I've been in bands, ever since I was a little kid, but I was never as good as my lead guitarist. And when we all kind of broke up the band that we were in and wanted to go start a new band, the stuff was way too technical for me. And so just to stay in the band, I became a singer. And they were like, well, you're not that good at singing. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'm just not, I'm not leaving this band. You know what I mean? And I ended up becoming okay. But that was a metal band. And this was just a much more difficult metal band that we transitioned into. But these days, I don't even touch the electric guitar. I just play my classical. I bought it for like $350 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. And I refuse to play anything else. I learned like flamenco and all that stuff, but I can't play electric anymore. And it's just, it's the
no
best.
Problem.
Yeah. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. People say to me, we call him an axe. This is my axe, because that's what it is. That's what I've always used it for, but to make money. That was the only reason I ever played was because someone said, "Hey, I'll pay you some money." Okay, and I even when I got on stage, I was always the backup guy, and that's when I got into comedy. It shocked the shit out of everybody that knew me, because I never hardly talked on stage, let alone play rhythm guitar. And the next thing I know, I'm doing movies. It cracks me up because I knew my old musician buddies in Vancouver, and it's always been a kind of a joke, that of all people, Tommy Chong.
Well, it's crazy too, the way that you end up becoming successful, like doing something that you did not even intend to happen, but the universe just threw it at you. But you said that day, I'm going to be bigger than fucking Jimi Hendrix.
That's what I said. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And why would I say that?
Well, because
why
you believed it, really,
would I say that? No, it was the muse telling me.
Right.
You know,
right.
it was the muse. I mean, why all of a sudden am I even playing with Hendrix? And that's been through my whole life. I've been meeting great people, just coming at me, like Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. Now I hang out with Sugar Ray Leonard a bit. All these people, and for me, like I couldn't even get through high school in jail. I had to take a GED in jail. I didn't have to, but it was offered, and it was mandatory unless you were old like I was, and so it wasn't mandatory. But I said, I want to try to get my GED, and I try as I might, man. I really do have it's a kind of a Gemini short attention span kind of thing. I think it's a musician in me, that we hear songs and it's beginning, middle, and end. And then you're listening to something else. You know what I mean? To concentrate on one thing. And stand-up comedy is the same thing as music. You go from one subject to another, then you can forget what you're saying. Doesn't matter because you're on something else. There was this. It's a natural thing for me. So I know my whole being is ordained, and I've been rejoicing that fact. In fact, I was just on vacation with my wife and her girlfriend, and they were taking an art class in Italy, in Umbria. And so I tagged along, and I didn't have to drive. I didn't have to think. I just had to walk, follow and produce, the documents needed. But it was so much fun, so beautiful, because sitting in the back, out of control, they're driving. And guys, we're used to being in command of our ship, and I literally had to learn how to be a passenger, because no use saying anything because they're not listening to you. You're in the back seat, and they're driving and they're finding out where we got to go and turn here or should we turn there, and I'm just looking out the window enjoying the scenery and enjoying everything, and that was one of the best vacations I can remember. No responsibility. So like I said earlier, learning how to be old is such a treat, because there's so much dignity and honor bestowed upon the older guy, or women. It's very, very respectful. And people do things for you because they have to, because you're too fucking old to do it yourself.
Yeah, man. And it was literally only like within the last year was the first time in my life I wasn't terrified of getting old, or at least not. At least now I'm looking forward to getting older. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm finally like, oh wait, I don't have to like chase after young chicks anymore. Like I can just kind of relax now. It's kind of nice. It really is.
Yes, and that's why you have children. Mm-hmm. Oh, children are such a blessing. Because now you can kind of correct the faults that you had by trying to steer your kids in, but you know what I did? Because I had such a happy childhood, being able to be free the way I was, it was an accident. My mother was ill with TB. And so my early part, she was in the hospital. I was in the hospital. Then when I got out, I went into an orphanage. And so I was always sort of incarcerated. but not because I didn't know any different. It became a life that I adapted to and immediately learned how to do everything. You know, it was fine. And that helped me when I went to prison. It was no big deal. You know, I've been incarcerated all my life, walking through those walls. You know, a lot of people, you know, they're all ashamed, they're scared and everything else. Me, I was kind of like, yeah, like graduation, you know, walking in, you know, I was embedded with the troops. But I could not get my grade 12. I could not get my GED. And so then they told me in there, because I was such a celeb, they said, just put down anything and we'll pass you. And I said, no, I can't cheat on a prison GED. That would be blasphemous. So I failed it. But that's
you
how
failed it.
Yeah, I failed it. That's why all my life, I've been fired from gigs. That's why I went from one gig to another. Mm-hmm. And every time I got fired, I come up with something else. I got fired from Motown, you know, because I tried to get I was getting a green card, you know. I mean, the hierarchy, Motown knew what I was doing, but the underlings didn't. And it was the underlings, you know, like the security guard. Sorry, sir, you know, you can't come in here. I know who you are, but you can't come in here because I was told to not let anybody in here unless they had, you know, that kind of shit. And so it's crazy. I forgot what I was saying now.
You're talking about getting your GED and.
Yeah. So when I failed it, I said, that's who I am. You know, I've always been fired, and every time I get fired, I get moved into a position of now I can do a lot of things now because everything's changed, you know, in the movie industry. I've got a fucking plan, man. It's gonna change a lot of things because we don't have a movie industry like we had. You know, it's gone.
That's the fucking truth. Yeah,
it's gone. It's like the movie theaters. You know, mm-hmm. you can be nostalgic and go and say, "Oh yeah, I miss that." You don't miss it. Come on.
Yeah, what's crazy is that as someone your age recognizes that, but people 20, 30 years your junior just cannot get that through their head. Like, you go and see a movie at the movie theater, and it's like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, everybody stop pretending it's 1992 and just like, you know, the closest they've gotten to figure it out is that they should probably put it on HBO Max, you know, at the same time as they drop it in the movie theater. That's as close as I'll get.
Part of what we're leaving behind is somewhere to go in allotting and allowing the travel to be part of your existence. You know, like in order to go to movies, first of all, you have to be pretty well off, you know, with money, with all that stuff, you know, because being a poor ass musician, I remember I was in San Francisco and, you know, we were staying at a friend's house because we couldn't afford hotels. And we're all in one little apartment. And it was a girl, of course. And we had no money for food. And so we would, we had enough to buy some beans, you know. So one night and one of the guys in the band was a great cook. So with onions and everything else, he made a feast, you know, and it was good. And for some reason, the weed always sort of appeared somewhere, somehow, you know. Mm-hmm. We never had to buy it. All of a sudden, someone offered to you. And that's the way we lived, you know. And so it was a treat, unbelievable treat. Someone had to take you to a movie, you know, in those days, you know, because now, even if you're like alone, you know, in a club, you're hitting on one of the dancers, or she's hitting on you, or the waitress, you know, and she's going to take care of your dumb ass.
Yeah.
If you got any time, you might have to leave the next morning or that night, you know, for the next gig, you know.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous life. It was so much fun because the thing is about music, you have to be present. You can't mail that shit in. And the minute you start mailing that shit in, that's when you're when they're looking to replace your ass, if you got something else that's more important than music, then it shows up right away, and you can even see the signs of it coming up. But that's the great thing about music, is because you're judged on how good you sound. That's how you're judged. And if you don't have that shit together, man, no one wants to hear you.
Yeah, and you can't fake it.
No reason to. I in my career, I got hired one time, my first gig in a club, and the guy really wanted a bartender, but he couldn't afford a bartender, but he could afford a guitar player. And I just realized it just recently. So I get there and the guy said, listen, yeah, you can set up your guitar, but listen, will you do me a favor? Will you help me with the bar? And I said, sure. And then you play later. So I was a bartender, and then I played the little guitar, and but my main gig was the bartender.
But yeah.
And I had the best time. My dad come to pick me up because I was, it was my first gig and everything. And and he happened to be there, and I'm pouring drinks, and he goes, son, what are you doing? He said, look, everybody's so drunk. You're giving so much alcohol and all the drinks, because I didn't know what I was doing. So everybody in the club was like plastered. Because I had no clue how to mix drinks.
The dude probably lost more money in alcohol than it would have been just to pay a bartender and to have you playing guitar, right? Like, what the fuck is that?
You know it. Oh man, that was back in the 50s. That was way back there. But again, it was always the gig. Always some singer saying, "Hey, I got a gig. I need a backup." Okay. And I used to take the bus, and that's when you can tell if you're into guitar. When you take I had a buddy, we were in Army cadets, and he played and I played. He was a native kid. I'm a native kid too. And so we would play all weekend. I would get on the bus with the amp at the time. I had an amp. I remember carrying an amplifier. Yeah, because he had electric guitar and acoustic. And so I would carry that bloody amp over on the bus, over to his house, then walk a few blocks with the amp in the snow. And then we'd set it up and we'd start playing. Then we'd go to bed. And as soon as we woke up, we'd start playing again all day. And then some girls would phone, and he would say, "Hey, listen to this," and he'd put the phone down, and then we'd forget that they were on the phone. We'd play for about a couple hours. Then we'd look at the phone. Oh shit, is someone there? Pick it up, and they're still there.
No shit.
Yeah, that was that's when you go to sleep and then you wake up and reach for the guitar. That says, yeah. That because the way you get gigs is people know your reputation. Mm-hmm. That's they know you can play. Someone knows you can play, and then they phone you up, and you got a gig. That's the way it works. It always works that way.
Yeah, we've been really like very lucky over the past 10 years, because we'll go away for 2 or 3 years. My band I'm talking about, we'll go away for 2 or 3 years and come back, and people are just like, "Oh my God, you're playing again!" Show, just more shows. And I always said, man, if we did a lot less drinking in our early 20s, we really could have done something, because like we're fucking good. We're still good. Now we're just old and just still rocking it out. Now we're like, whatever. It's just it's a hobby. But I'm also like super lucky because my bandmates, they're all like they're all virtuoso geniuses. I'm the anchor. I'm the guy that brings them down, man. So fucking.
Well, you're the guy that has to do other things.
Yeah. Well, we all have, but now we're all parents and have serious jobs and shit. So I actually never realized how difficult it was gonna be to have a band in your mid-30s. Like it used to be like we would be, no, I don't feel like going to practice today, man. Let's just do it tomorrow, or or one of the 4 or 5 of us would do that, then the other
Sure.
4 or 5 would be pissed.
Yeah.
And these days it's like, hey man, can you make it Thursday? It's like, whoa, we could do it for an hour and 15 minutes, but then I gotta go. I gotta pick up my daughter. It's like, it's always some shit like that. Or it's like, one thing I always say is like, it is a testament to the existence of any band that you can get 4 people that want to do the same fucking thing in a room.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's a good, back in the day, they had organized religion for a reason. And the reason really was to get people together. See, you don't have to work. You don't have to be doing shit, because back in the day, you never had time to sit around and let's talk about God or hear about God, So they made a church. Okay, leave your shit. In fact, get dressed up. Leave your work clothes behind. Get dressed up. Come and sit and listen. And learn. And that's why. And music was always the biggest part of any church. No matter what they believed in, they'd turn to the band or to the guitar player or to the piano player or whoever was making, because music is ordained and is eternal. It has always been here, and it will always be here. And it was really the human's way of communication with God. That's how God would communicate with us, and that's how He still communicates with us. And if you're blessed with the talent to be able to understand and be able to use those notes to make people listen, then you are part of the church. You are definitely part of the church. And it doesn't matter. Again, people say, what denomination, what do you believe in? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change music at all. C is always C, G is always G. It doesn't matter what you believe or who put you there or what's going on in the world. Music never changes. And when you put music together and make sounds, like I was on this podcast with Sink is his name. It was kind of a political podcast. They're talking about slavery, and what would I do? What would be my answer? And my answer to everything has always been forgiveness. Just forgive. And they said, yeah, but even if there's so heinous crimes, everything else. And I said, yeah. I said, because the reason you forgive is because whoever is doing the evil is just on the wrong path. That's all. He's as eternal as us, but he's just, or she's just on the wrong path. And I don't know why they're on that path, and it's none of my business. Therefore, I'm going to love them regardless, because just like someone, like in the band hits the wrong note. You don't hate them. you know who hit it. And if he keeps hitting it, you'll have to school him. But there's no hate involved. There's only love and forgiveness. And that's what music always taught me. Or it's not so much that music taught me that, is that I learned that, but I always did well in spiritual settings, like Bible camp or church itself. I can get very involved in church, and like I did a funeral one time, and I had a great time. And I got friends, that have passed, and here I'm phoning other friends saying, "Okay, let me know when the memorial, if there's a memorial." This is for my first acting partner, and then I realized I'm the guy that's supposed to be doing the fucking memorials, you know. They should be phoning me and asking me, you know.
Yeah.
So it's there's a whole, and I got this from music too. I got the basics, and one of the basics is always be in tune. You know, if there's something out of tune, stop and get in tune and sync too. If things are speeding too fast, then slow it down. Get it to where it's comfortable. And if you follow that, then you're paying attention. Because here's what music does to you. You can dream. In fact, music will enhance a dream. But if you're involved in playing, you're in a time capsule that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you have to know where you're at all times. And if you forget where you're at all times, then look around to your buddy. You know, where are we? and he'll hit a note or a beat or give you the cue, and then okay, I'm there. But you see how it controls you? That's God. See, that's God. When people, you know, the non-believers, you know, they're the ones that don't listen to music, I guess. You know, or if they do, they're on maybe that Satan rap, you know, that thing, you know, which is still music, and it's still necessary, because if we didn't have Satan or the thought of Satan, then our humans, we need something to compare it to, stuff to, you know, and so that's, to me, that's why music. If you have to respect it to the point, because it will kick your ass if you don't. You know, when you mess up, like I have on occasion, but it's all life, and that's what life's all about. Life is a tune, and when the music's over, when the tune's over, there's a pause, and then there's another gig. It never ends.
Hell yeah, man. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately too. Just about the life lessons that you can learn from music. And it's just there's so much I didn't even realize that I had taken from music. One of which being, you know, that everything is relative to the key, right? So everything that follows forth from an argument is relative to the key, and a lot of people get really confused with making life choices based on their principles without realizing that they're playing the wrong notes in the wrong key. You know, it's like it's great to have principles, but everything is relative. And I wouldn't necessarily call myself a relativist, but shit, man, it feels like that sometimes. You know, it's you really have to adjust your thinking to the situation, right? If you're too rigid, you know, you're going to try to play. I don't know. You're going to be trying to play a minor scale on a major, or you're going to try to play a seventh chord on a major. You know, just something wrong. You know, and you always have to adjust for the situation. And this one thing, it's like a daydream / something that I come up with that it hits me fresh every time I take a hallucinogen, and that's that, like, I certainly feel that God put me here for some fucking reason that maybe I figured it out, and maybe on an unconscious level, but not consciously. I've not figured it out consciously, but I'm just happy to be in the orchestra, and I get this like vision every time, you know, I'm tripping, that like I'm so proud and happy to be a part of the orchestra that, man, fuck it, I will play second cello. You know, I don't care. Just tell me whatever you need, I'm there. You know, whatever I'm asked to do, I will do. Even if it's just to hit 2 notes on the bridge, you know, whatever you need.
Yeah, it's church. It's where you belong.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you find God. That's the whole point. I was looking at the churches when I was in Italy, and the thing is about church, it went hand in hand with art back in the day, because really what a church was, it was a fortress. It was where you can get away from the everyday world, you know, that physical world where everybody is like, you know, clawing, fighting, you know, struggling. Then you go to church, and all of a sudden you're with God, and then everything is just calm and sweet, and beautiful. I mean, with me. And then I look at the church, and I realize there's so much art involved in all the early churches. So much art. And then you realize what is art? Like music, it's eternal. It's God's expression through man, you know, saying, okay, how do you feel about this, Michelangelo? And he creates it. He creates his art. And that's what I saw over in Florence. The Italians are so proud of their country, and they're so artistic that they don't allow signage in the countryside. And so no matter where you go, you don't know where you are. Because you got to have your phone, and you're because there's no signs. There's no saying welcome to, you know, welcome this and the Rotary clubs and, you know, Starbucks, or none of that shit. It's that you're in one Italian village, and then you're in another Italian, you know, area. So beautiful. I love it so much. And then the language and the food, and it's all about life. It's all about human life, about living the best that you could do. Oh man, it was such a beautiful holiday for me. I did one painting, and it came out pretty good. My wife and Valerie, Shelby and Valerie, they worked hard. They paid the money, and they worked hard. I never paid shit, so I didn't. I told the girl, "That's okay. I'm gonna take some pictures," you know. So I just walked, you know. I actually laid in an olive grove in the sun, and just laid there. Oh, and I was looking for something, and a little mouse come out. I disturbed his home. A little baby rat, actually, because it was bigger than a mouse. And he came out, and he kind of looked at me. He was like a cartoon figure. What's that one Sing Two? You know, that the little mouse in there. It was almost like him. He came out. It was a rat, little baby rat, and he was kind of confused. He's like, "What's up?" And then he went away. And then they had a live model come in. She was sitting there, and when she moved somewhere else, the rat was up. The baby rat was up, and it fell. It fell down. And of course, all the girls, you know, they didn't scream or anything, because I told them about the mouse or the rat. And they realized it's a baby, you know, and it's on a farm, you know, it's not a pest, as they would call them here in America, you know. Oh no, man. When you get to where I'm at now, I'm consciously aware of being around beauty continually. And it's like the reward I was given, you know. That holiday in Italy came out of nowhere. You know, all of a sudden my wife says, "Oh, we're going to Italy next week." I checked with Paris, my son. It's okay, you're clear. And I said, "Oh, how long are we going for?" She said, "Oh, like 10 days, something like that." And where are we going? Florence. Oh, great. I've been there. Nice. I had one bad time in Florence. And that was because you're on jet lag. See, we never learn that when you're on jet lag, don't talk to anybody. They'll just piss you off.
Yep.
Definitely don't talk to your wife. because you'll get in the worst argument ever over the dumbest things. And then don't try to go to the most famous museum in Florence without telling them who the fuck you are so you can get the celebrity treatment.
Yeah.
Instead, I went like a fucking tourist, and I went and stood in 5 different lines before I finally found the right line.
Yeah.
And each line moved up. It took about a half hour for each line to move up for me to be told, no, you're in the wrong line. And because I was jet lagged, my wife was jet lagged, both of us like stunned, we're in the middle of the night. It was like sleepwalking, And I went to the museum. Of course, I lost her right away. She disappeared. And I thought she was ahead of me. So I'm almost running through the museum. Of course, she's not. She's behind me. But you know how you feel like, oh, is that her? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Then I went outside, and I tried to go back to the hotel. I got lost, made the wrong turn, went about a mile U-turn to come back to the same place where I was, which was the art gallery or the museum. Then I finally made it to the hotel, and but I had a great time, man. Getting lost in Florence there's worse things to do.
That was my first thought. Exactly. Yeah. There's way worse things. I've gotten lost in Montreal. Way less fun.
Yeah.
No. Do you ever run into that? Like, do you ever go somewhere and someone just doesn't know, has no clue who you are, and even if you try to tell them who you are, they're like, I don't know. I don't watch movies. Do you ever run into anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Once in a while, it's usually the opposite. I excite a lot of people, especially if I'm flying or because we're on TikTok so much, and so I get all the young TikTok fans. They know who I am, and then the older ones, they grew up with the records and everything else. So I'm one of those famous influencers, they call that. No matter where I go, there's always going to be somebody going up, looking at me, and that's why I say it about the museum. I never used it. I should have, but I never thought. And my wife was on jet lag, and she's never been comfortable with me, being the guy all the time, because she doesn't really appreciate when girls come up, hand her the camera. Will you take pictures of us?
Oh, that's rough.
She's okay. Click. Yeah.
That's kind of.
I mean, she'll deal with it, but not for too long.
I don't know, man. That's a little fucked up.
That happens. Yeah. Oh, that happens, man. Do you mind?
Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah, when we're at the hotel, one of the clerks, the porters that carry up your bags, he knew I was famous, but he didn't know why. And so some American, he saw me in the lobby and so he tells, oh, I got.
My Zoom's been acting up today. Ah, there you are.
There. Yeah, I turned it on and off.
Oh yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm learning how to do this shit.
Yeah. Well, actually, you can navigate it pretty well. You know what I'm saying?
It took a while, but you do it enough times,
I'm a supervisor at where I work, and all of my employees are in their 50s, and telling them to open something up on the computer is like a brand new thing every time. Like they're looking at like a caveman looking at fire for the first time. Like, oh, it does that. So you're doing fucking great, man. Especially being on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Like that is I feel like I'm too old to try a new, like every time there's a new social media that comes out, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like a new thing, like another thing I have to figure out, and then figure out how to post for, build a new audience. I'm like, come on, no, I'm not doing it until like after a year, everyone's like, you have to be on TikTok, right? I'm like, fine. I'm still not.
Oh yeah. It's so much fun. So much fun.
I'm just crappy
because it's everything's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. That's why I love doing these podcasts. because I just rattle off. I don't give a shit about anything, and everybody likes it. I love it. That's what I mean about the movie companies. There's no more movie companies, you know. And in fact, there's people in movie companies looking for gigs, looking for work.
Yeah.
You know, and so I got a hell of a plan, you know, and I'm going to be unveiling it. I did a little thing with Seth Rogen.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
It was a Netflix trying to be funny. I think it's tour. Netflix.
Oh,
Netflix is a joke.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is a joke, and it was a table read of Harry Meets Sally. You know the movie.
And you guys each play a.
And so I played the old guys. It was a table read. And they had it all, you know, highlighted what my part was. Seth Rogen played Billy Crystal, and this other girl, I forget her name, beautiful mixed black girl, played Meg Ryan's role. And then there's a whole cast and narrators and music, and just sat at a table and read, and the microphone's there, and it was so easy to do. It was so much fun. And then after, I took an Uber home, and wow, see, this is a new order of things. You see, yeah, this is what's happening. And when Cheech and I go on the road now, we won't be performing as much as we'll be doing Q&A. You know, question and answer. And yeah, because we kept finding it out when we're performing that people were waiting for us to shut up so they could tell us their stories.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's one of the that's like one of the. I was actually just listening to a podcast today that was saying something very similar. Like the new thing is accessibility. Like people love the people that they watch or listen to or stuff like that, but they're more interested about being able to speak with them. You know, which is why, like, I never. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that I would have a podcast, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, but am I still a singer? But the second one would have been like, yeah, and you'll have Tommy Chong on your podcast. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, not only was that probably not physically possible back then, especially the way it is now, but I wouldn't have fucking believed it.
Well, you know, it's different times, different things. You know, people. You know, they just couldn't believe what's going on. I mean, who would have believed that marijuana was essential during the pandemic and alcohol was banned, basically, you know? I mean, and they're legalizing it everywhere. And the places that aren't legalizing it, they're like looking at them like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then the feds eventually are going to have to legalize it, you know, take it off the Schedule 2 thing, you know, or the Schedule 1, and, you know, and make it admit that it's been medicine the entire time. You know, it's just, you know, the humans have to go through these stages of you know, going down the wrong road, you know, like Putin's going down the wrong road now, you know, and Putin has no idea that of course, he's caught up in a karma situation, you know, like Ukraine. It looks like Ukraine's going to be eventually the ruling Russia, you know.
Mm. Yeah, man, it's definitely crazy times. Like, it's interesting to watch, especially celebrities have to change their entire game plan. But it's almost tough to watch celebrities realize that there's no more $100 million movies. Like they are. They're still making them. But they're not going to pay anybody 50 to 100 mil for a movie anymore. That is just gone. And so I kind of wonder what's going to happen to these guys' credit lines. You know what I mean? Like, does that just go out the window in 10 years? And
no, they'll be like us. You know, out of a gig, you got to find something.
Yeah.
And then some maybe will be driving Uber. You know, who the hell knows?
Imagine getting picked up by Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Get picked up by Johnny Depp one day in an Uber.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those guys, you know, I think the actors will be teaching, teaching acting, because that's what they have. They have this ability to show you how they can do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I see a nice future for people that want to teach. The flash in the pans that's what it is. You can't piss around anymore. People, especially what's going on now with the war in the Ukraine is it's oil. It's the last gasp of the oil industry, you see, because the only thing that drives oil prices up is war, and that's what triggered the Second World War. Japan had no oil fields, and everybody cut them off. They're embargo. They put sanctions against them, and so they fuck you, United States. And look how unprepared we were then, even though we knew. But it was this sort of like miscalculation, that somehow the Japanese aren't really, we don't need to pay attention to them for some reason. It's a racism thing, of course, big time. But now we're finding out, how it doesn't matter what you look like. We're all driving the same electric car, and we're all trying to stop the global warming one way or another.
Yeah. I actually like. I grew up in a very diverse area. It's Lowell, Massachusetts, and
right.
And so like. Especially, I mean, it was already diverse before the 80s, but during the 70s and 80s, the UN set up a refugee program for everybody fleeing the Khmer Rouge to come over here. So Lowell's got the largest Cambodian population in the world, other than Cambodia.
Whoa!
So like all
really?
Man. It's such a crazy place to grow up. Like in the 90s when I grew up, it was
how were they treated? They weren't treated like blacks, were they?
Not exactly. It was different times, but also if you treated Cambodian people poorly, I don't want to sound, I'm not going to mince words. You'd get fucking stabbed. Like you know what I mean? Like that's what's happening.
Yeah, they come from a killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was
so they knew how to deal with it. Yeah, I had a Filipino, I don't guess, house gardener, whatever, like a helper working for me, and when I lived in Paris, and he had I had this rich friend, and I was trying to help him out. We were going to do a what do you call it, a film festival together. I had this idea for a Cheech and Chong film festival in Amsterdam. And anyway, Domingo was his name, the Filipino guy. And he was my guy. And I had a bunch of cars. I had a Rolls Royce. I had a Ferrari and a Duchevaux. And so between everybody, they would drive my cars to wherever I was appearing at, and going. And so we were in the south of France. And so I had Patrick was his name, from Amsterdam, and Domingo. And they were going to drive my cars back to Amsterdam for me. And we took a plane. And, well, Patrick wanted to take advantage of me and just party and, like a rich asshole, what she turned out to be. Well, Domingo told me that Patrick came within an inch of his life, because had he fucked around anymore, Domingo showed me how he would have killed him. And it's a knife to the back of the head, into the brain, the Filipino way. I mean, when someone shows you that kind of shit, you go, whoa, he's serious. That's some serious shit.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn a lot of lessons growing up in the hood, which is what Lowell was when I was growing up. And it was
well, you learn You learn not, if you're making eye contact, you better have a nice smile on your face.
Yes, and you also learn that your words have actual consequences, and it could mean your face or your life. You know what I'm saying? Like one of them's going, and that's today. You know, and I almost hit somebody in Cambridge with my car. It was one of these rich fucktards that just like, you know, someone that's going to Harvard thinks he's the shit. Fucking 18, 19, whatever, just walks right out when I get the green light. And I fucking stopped the car and I said, "Excuse me, what the fuck you think you're doing?" And he just like flips me off and walks back. And I'm like, "Oh," and I'm an Uber driver, you know, as a part-time job. And I had like my guy waiting right there. And I'm like, "Bro, I grew up in the hood. If I didn't have my customer right there, you'd be fucking done." But you know what I mean? Like I would never do that to somebody out of respect. And two, out of like the fear of like, you never know who you're fucking with. And
Never.
And you know, I it was a couple of months ago too. I forgot what it was because Lowell's getting a lot nicer now, and I forgot what it was like growing up in the hood. So I was trying to help out this little dog. It was running around on the sidewalk. I figured it was somebody's dog. I stop and I try to grab the dog and find the tag. You know, see if I could find its owner. And this kid comes out and he was like, "You trying to steal my fucking dog?" It was a Cambodian kid, and I was like, "Oh, no, man, no, I'm not trying." He's like, he comes down and he steps to me and he like gets in my face. And I was like, "Oh, I forgot what this was like." Oh my, I was like, "That's right. You can't even do something nice. I forgot." You know what I mean? But it was like, it took me right back to my childhood. Like, you know, like you said, looking at somebody the wrong way, you better be smiling. I was like, "I'm sorry, bro. You got the wrong impression." He's like, "I'm fucking watching you." I'm like, I'm not trying to fight anybody today. You know,
well, you know, there's dog nappers now and all sorts of weird shit going on.
I feel you, man.
Yeah. Well, the whole mask thing, you know, I mean, that like shook a lot of people. You know, they couldn't deal with that. Someone telling me, "You got to wear a mask." Why? Because you got germs, motherfucker. You know, you don't want to get sick or you don't want to spread a disease. And people can't. You know, they're the types. You know, don't tell them. You know, when they're walking down the street, like in Florence, like with me, I move around people. You know, I do that. But there's some, you know, macho guys. You know, they're going to walk straight. But the thing is, there's other macho guys.
Yep.
And there's no room. One of you has to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the guy, he was telling me about it. You know, it's weird. You know, you're walking down there and no one moves, and so you have to move. That's the thing. But it's an age thing too. Age, and you know, and you got a lot of testosterone. This is what I love about growing old. That's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I got a cane. I made a cane when I was over there because I medicate quite a bit, and even when I was as young as I would stagger around if I was stoned enough. You know, I'd miss steps. You know, think there was a bottom step and there's one more. You know, that kind of look.
Yeah.
So I fell a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. And so I realized I need a cane. So I made myself. I found a cane over there out of olive wood, and it's good, man. And my wife was a little bit, you know, "Oh no, you don't need a cane. Then you're going to start, you know, using it." I said, "Well, that's why you have a fucking cane."
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it was really nice when I got, you know, I think I was around 28 when it happened, where I could like where I could exist for like 3 or 4 hours without thinking about sex. Like when the testosterone dipped a little bit, I was like, "Oh, this is nice. Like I can think about, you know, spiritual stuff for several hours at a time now. I don't have to like think about, you know." It was like that was terrible there for about 15 years. You know what I mean? That was like straight like all day every day.
Well, have you been watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard?
I've been seeing some clips on Insta.
It's great theater.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, right.
See, this is where we're going. We're there. We're already there. Johnny Depp, who hadn't been in a movie for years, now he's front and center on your television set every night with his estranged or wife or the divorced or, and they're suing each other. And it's all to be back in the limelight.
I got the same feeling. Yeah.
They're all moths. They need that light. They need that spotlight. Where's my light? Listen to me. I know that feeling, man. It's like, if they don't know who I am, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
Why am I in a crowd running to see what? See, I'm at a position where I could make a phone call and have a private tour wherever I want to go. But I don't want to go. The point is, I want to sit. I want to sit. What I used to do, years ago when we'd go on vacations and that, I would find, or if I'm alone, I would go to museums. Like in Toronto, there's a Gauguin carving. He carved this piece about yay big, but it's a carving. I'm a carver, so I would go to the Toronto Museum, sit in front of that carving all day and just look at it, just be with it, look at it, and just pick up that vibe that he had, and that's way, to me, that you can enjoy life. You don't have to run around to do it.
I've been learning a little bit of that, that's actually some great advice to actually kind of end on, man. I want to thank you a million times over for coming on, Tommy. Like, this was, I never thought something like this was possible, and to have met you, this is a dream come true, my man.
Well, we were supposed to do this before.
Yeah,
right. But
and
I had to cancel or something.
Yeah, you had actually fallen. Well, that wasn't why you had canceled, but it was just a bad. Bad connection. But I could see you were definitely.
Oh, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
I fucked up my shoulders, and then I fell again.
Oh.
I fell once, and then I fell again. I was like, oh, what? And my son said, "Oh, Dad, you're like a stuntman, the way you went down."
Oh.
Well, it's like in movies, that's what you have to do in movies. If they want you to fall or do something, you do what you're told.
Yeah.
So I've had a few falls in my time, but I got a cane now. I don't need it.
No more falling.
When are you going to be finished?
Huh?
When are you going to be finished? About 20 minutes?
I'm done now.
Okay, good. See you in the kitchen.
Okay.
All right.
My boss just come in.
Perfect, Tommy. Hey, man. Thanks a lot for coming on, my man.
Anytime. Let's do it again.
Thank you, Tommy. Take care, dude.
Okay, bye.